Hello and thanks for joining me today. I've got a project for you that's going to showcase this piece of cake stamp set and the piece of cake cake builder punch. This is the project that I've got. But as you can see, this is using my favourite DSP, which is the Gingham Gala. So this is out of the Spring Summer catalogue. So we've got this stamp set and the punch, and I've got them here. You can buy them together as a bundle and save 10%. And if you haven't used coordinating punches, got the light shining right on that. Sorry, it's going to go a little bit dark. If you haven't used coordinating punches and stamp sets, these fit these perfectly. They're made to go together. So you can stamp out or punch out the cake stand and the cake part, and it will fit perfectly. And that is exactly what I've done here. So I've punched out the cake and the stand, and then I've just stuck them onto some card using dimensionals. So it kind of, I don't know if you can see that, just stands out a little bit. And I've also used there, if you've seen any of my videos before, you know I absolutely adore the Gingham Gala. So that's where this is in the catalogue. The catalogue gives you some lovely inspiration as to what you can actually do with these products. And there is there's the DSP that also comes with a punch as well. So here's that DSP. It's 6x6, this one. I can pick it up. And it comes in 5 colours. So Daffodil Delight, Lemon Lime Twist, Grapefruit Grove, Balmy Blue, and one sheet left of the Highland Heather. I'm going to end up buying another pack just to get that Highland Heather. So I've got the ink that matches that as well. So without further ado, let me show you how I put this together. It's really, really simple. I do want to give some credit to somebody though, because I didn't design this. I took some inspiration from a Carol Lovenstein. I hope I've got that right. And I can't remember where I found it. It might have been on Facebook or Pinterest. And it really stood out when I saw it. And Carol's used a slightly different design of cake. So I wanted to have a go at this just because I had some scraps of this left. And this is an ideal project to use up some scraps. The other thing that I want to do is show you how I'm going to do this in a production line. I'm not going to make you watch me do it all in a production line because that would take a little while. But I want to make, I've got this card and I damaged it very slightly when I was making it because I got a little bit of glue on there and I tried to rub it off and actually damage the paper. So I actually want to make 3 of these and then just put them in a pack to sell them as a pack of 3 cards. So I'm going to show you actually what I've done with that. I'm going to give you the measurements, but all of the measurement details will be on my blog, which is www.taffycrafting.blogspot.co.uk. And if you subscribe to that and subscribe while you're here, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then you'll see lots of other projects that are coming up very, very shortly. So measurements. This is a 4x6 card. I can't remember what the name of the size is. I think it's a C6, but it's roughly 4x6. So I've just cut these based on those measurements. So using a 4x6 card, these individual pieces of DSP measure 1 inch. No, they don't. They measure, yes they do, 1 inch by 3 3/4 of an inch. And then I've just spaced those out evenly on there. So the first thing I'm going to do to get my production line going is that I have cut 3 lots of all of them. And that would be the first job that I would do, is then put all of my DSP onto my card. So I'm just going to put that to one side because I want to start that shortly. So that's the first thing I'll do. I've chosen this colour combination because I've got Highland Heather in the middle and I want to put some Highland Heather cardstock to coordinate with that. So I've got 3 pieces of Highland Heather cardstock, and you can see this is using up scraps. You've always got bits and pieces like this hanging around, and it does tend to start to take up a whole lot of room when you've just got a bag full of scrap. But you know, you could use these. This measures, I've got it written down and now I can't see it, 2 1/8 by 2 5/8. I'm just going to check that. Yes, 2 1/8 by 2 5/8. So I've got 3 of those ready for my production line. And then I've got 3 pieces of Whisper White cardstock. This measures 2 inches by 2.5 inches. So the reason why we're dealing with 1/8 of an inch here is just so that we get a really nice border. If I can get that to slide. That just creates a nice border there. So I've got 3 of those. For my sentiment, I'm actually using a piece of card that's smaller than this. I felt that that card just completely took over this last piece of Gingham Gala DSP. So I've actually made it slightly smaller. And that measures, I haven't written it down when it measures, that is 2 1/4 by 3/4 of an inch. So all of these measurements will be on my blog. And you know what I'm just about to do now, because I didn't write that down. I'm going to write it down. So that was 2 1/4 by 3/4 of an inch. If I don't write that down now, I'm going to forget. And the other thing that I've got, 3 pieces, no particular size, these are all different sizes of card, and that's what I'm going to stamp this with. So got everything ready. So I've got my card. I buy these pre-scored. You could use Whisper White cardstock and cut it to 8 1/4. Yes, 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, or 5 7/8. Sorry, 5 7/8 by 8 1/4, and then you just score it down the middle. So the first thing I'm going to do is arrange my DSP, because I need to make sure that I've got it roughly where I want it. Now this DSP, you could use the large gingham or the smaller gingham, totally up to you. You can mix them up if you want to. That doesn't sit right in my head, mixing them up, but you know, it's entirely up to you. It would make every card unique. So I'm just going to arrange them here just so that I can make sure I've got the spacing correct. I've done this before where I've made a card, not checked the spacing, and I've just got too much space up the top. And people don't normally notice it, but I notice it. I know it's there. So I'm just going to arrange them like that. And my recommendation, just going to get some more light over here so I can see. I always end up filming late in the evening and I lose all my light. So just going to arrange them roughly where I want them to be so that I have an even amount of space between them all. And I would recommend wet glue to fix these on here, because then you can just move them about a bit to get them into the right position. I'm going to start at the top and work my way down. So I would do all the gluing of my DSP first, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 3 cards in one go, but I'm not going to make you watch me do the other 2, because that would be boring. So just using wet glue on here and just making sure that that lines up as accurately as possible. And making 3 of these cards, you've then got 3 birthday cards ready to go. If you're anything like me and forget birthdays, most people get their birthday cards late from me, if at all. At least then, if I've got 3 birthday cards here, they can just go out straight away. These will be cards that nobody can buy in the regular card shops. They will be completely unique. They won't have anything else like it. That's the nice thing about making your own cards. So there we have our DSP arranged as evenly as possible. So if you're going to get a production line going, then go on to the next card and get that DSP on there. go to the next card and get that on there. And that's what I'm going to quickly do now, and I'll be back. So in just a couple of minutes, I've now got 3 cards. So just with some preparation, that's all it needs. Get all your card and your DSP cut out first, and there we have 3 cards ready to go. So I'm just going to go back to that earlier one I've made because that glue won't be as wet. So now what I want to do is start preparing my stamped images and start preparing the card that it's going to sit on. So what I'm going to do is take my Highland Heather cardstock, and you don't have to do this, but if you wanted to, you could round the corners. It's what I've done on this card that I've made, and I'll show you how I do that. You can use the triple detail punch, or the detailed trio punch. I can never remember what it's called, but I've always got my envelope punch board out, and that has a corner rounder here. So I'm just going to round all of the corners on all of, that hasn't rounded very well, all of the corners on all of my cardstock, on the Highland Heather and on the white as well. And I can get these 3 cards made quicker than it would have taken me to get in the car, get into town, try and park, go to the shop, choose a card, and a very generic card, one that they've probably already received. And in that time, I would have made 3 cards. Obviously, I've still got to get in the car, because I never have a stamp, go and buy stamps, then find the post office and go and post them. The other thing I'm going to do while I'm here, I've got my 3 smaller pieces of DSP, and I'm just going to round those as well while I'm here. These are a bit more fiddly because they're smaller. That one does not want to round very well. Let's try it again. That's better. And at last, the final one. And that's all my rounding done in one go. This is what I like about the production line method. You can get all of your processes done at once. So now I can put my envelope punch board away. That's done then. Let's put that to one side. And now I want to attach one of these, the white, onto the Highland Heather, and again I'm just going to use wet glue for that. I'm not going to be stamping onto this card. I'll be stamping onto some scrap white card, and then I'll then punch that to put onto this. So there's one, very quick and easy to do. Don't need too much glue on this. Sometimes people plaster it on. It doesn't need to be, otherwise it just squishes out of the ends. So there we have 3 of those. So I'm going to get my cards and I'm going to glue the back of that, and I'm going to put this, I'm trying to get it central to the Highland Heather DSP there, but slightly to the right, but I still want to be able to see some DSP on the other side. So I'm just going to put that there and just make sure that that is straight. Now, when you're working with lines, like we have here on this DSP, you've got to really make sure that they all match. Otherwise it will stand out an absolute mile. So be careful when you are doing any cutting and trimming. So that's that one done. So there we go, those three are done. So we can just put those to one side and let those just dry off slightly before we start putting our sentiments and things on there. So now to my stamping. So I've got my 3 pieces of card. I've got my cake builder punch ready. So just going to, when you get them, they're like this, you need to just release that so that you can feed the paper into it. So here's my piece of cake stamp set, and we'll get the cake stand stamp out first and we'll stamp those. So there's my cake stand. Put that on my block. I would say about this one, you've got to be careful that you don't bend that top one. You just want it to, and the way I do it is I just let it fall onto the block, so that you're not bending it, otherwise it won't fit into the punch. And I'm going to be using Memento ink that's got my name on it because I took it to an event and I didn't want to lose it because I'd already lost one of these before. So I'm just going to take my Memento ink and just load up my stamp. I'll twist that on there because that is fabric that's made out of there, so it's best to twist it. And I'm just going to stamp that on there like that. Load up the ink again. That could have come out better, but I'm going to be colouring it. It won't make any difference. Or I might just stamp it again. That one's better. I'm going to turn that over. I'm going to do that again, just because it will bug me. Perfect. So I'm going to remove that stamp from the block, put it back, and I'll just show you some of the cakes that are on here. So for the last one that I made, I used this one. But we also have this that's got the icing dripping down, so I'm going to use that. But we also have kind of wedding cake here with flowers on it, even more flowers on this one. This one looks like it's got kind of layers and sprinkles on it, but it's also got some, you'll see here, it's got a cake topper here. We've got lollipops, hearts and candles, and we've got a cake as well that's got happy birthday on it. And I'm going to show you how we're going to put some colour onto that. So I'm going to, drop it everything, but I'm going to use the cake that's got the icing on it. I'm just going to put a little bit of colour on this, not a lot. So I'm just going to take these, turn those round, dip this back in my ink. And stamp those on there. They stamp out beautifully. There we go. So how am I going to colour those? I'm going to colour those with my stamping blends. I've got quite a collection of these now. Every time I place a Stampin' Up order, I buy a stamping blend. Let me show you one of them. I'm going to be using the Highland Heather. Just going to coordinate it with our cardstock and our cardstock and our DSP. So there are two ends to a stamping blend. You've got the marker end, if you want something sort of quite distinctive lines. And then my favourite one, you've got the kind of the brush end, and that's what I'm going to be using here. So all I'm going to do, I just want to colour these two bits here of the cake stand. And I'm going to colour, now this is a little bit difficult because I can't get my head right over this and my eyesight is poor. I think I might get the marker end out for that because I can't, I would normally just put my head right over it so I can see it. The older I get, the worse my eyesight gets, and it makes it really difficult to do something like this. I like this dripping icing effect. So what I'll do off camera, I will colour the other two, and then I'll show you how I'm going to put them onto the card. So I've done all of those now, got those coloured in. So now I need my cake builder punch. So I'll start off by punching out the cake stands because this does punch out separately. So I'm just going to fit that in there. Hope you can see that. And I just wait, just move it about until it's lined up. And then I kind of squeeze it and grab it once I'm happy that that's in the right place and punch that out. And I'll do that with all three of those. Doesn't help I've got the slight shakes there. So that's 3 cake stands, and then the cake itself, I just need to put that in so then it goes to the bottom of the punch. Line that up. And then stamp that out, punch that out. The great thing about a punch is that you just get an instant image. You get an instant shape. Die cutting is more intricate, but you need a die cutting machine to do that. Die cuts are beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because they're so precise. But sometimes we just want something quicker, and this is instant. Oh, I couldn't quite get that in there. So there's our last one. Okay, so we're now nearly ready to then put the rest of these cards together. So there's my card, that's been drying off nicely. And I'm going to put my cake stand and my cake on like that. Whoop, it's fallen off. And I want to attach that using stamping dimensionals, which I've put up here somewhere. These are the mini dimensionals, and I'm going to put 2 onto each of these like that. It doesn't matter how you put it on there, just as long as they're on there. You've got a little bit less room to play with on the cake stand, so I'm just going to put one towards the top and at the bottom. You could cut the dimensionals in half if you wanted to. So let's not put that one on first. Put the cake stand on first. Now, dimensionals, once they're stuck, they're stuck. If you try to pull them off, you're likely to pull off the paper behind it. So you've got to be confident that they're down and in the right place. So just lining that up. Happy with that. By using dimensionals, it's just lifting that image slightly. It just gives it a little bit of interest. Just line that up, make sure that's central to there. And there we go. So we're almost done with that. So I'm just going to do that on the other two cards. Won't make you watch me do that. I'll be back in a second. So I now have 3 cards, 3 identical cards. I just need to now put my sentiment on the bottom. So I've got my 3 pieces of Whisper White cardstock. I've got the sentiment from the piece of cake, sticking with the piece of cake stamp set. So I've got the happy birthday sentiment. I'm going to be using that. And I'm just going to be using black ink. But I could use a Highland Heather and keep it completely coordinated. In fact, that's what I'm going to do. Quickly reached over to the other side of the room to get that. So there's my just beautiful colour. It's like a really deep lilac. So quick change of mind. Load up the ink onto the stamp. Now we are using a smaller piece of cardstock here, which can be a bit fiddly. Just line that up, and then when you're confident you've got it in the right place, stamp it. And we're going to get 3 perfect stamps. Yes, is the answer to that. So the very last thing that we're going to do, I'm just going to put a dimensional onto each end of those. And our cards are done. So in under half an hour, obviously you've got all the prep to do first. But then once you've done that, and actually doing the prep doesn't take that long. Once you've done that, then you just get your production line going. So this I'm just going to, maybe I should have kept it on black. Maybe the Highland Heather just clashes with that Grapefruit Grove. I don't know. Everyone's different. So we have 1. That's 2. And finally, our third, it's almost going to have its sentiment upside down. 3 cards. So the next 3 birthdays that I've got coming up are sorted. I'll probably still send them late like I do everybody else's birthday cards, but they are there, all there, ready to go. You could, if you wanted to, is actually sell them as a set of 3, and you could perhaps create a nice box. I'm going to do a video now, actually, while I think about it. I'm going to make a box for them to go in, and then you could actually give a gift of birthday cards to send to somebody if you wanted to. But I'll make a quick video for that now. Watch out for that. To watch out for that, you're going to have to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and hit the bell. Thank you for joining me. I hope you like this project, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.